Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining PCCS's EmPower Hour, where we have members of the community coming together to help reconfigure humankind. My name is Alyssa DeGusto.
I'm Kevin Roman.
And we are here today to kick off Women's History Month with this powerhouse duo from Moonlight Productions.
Hi.
Welcome, Victoria and Christine. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you,
Alyssa.
for having us.
Thank you,
Thank
Kevin.
you.
We are honored.
Thank you. Thank you. We're really excited. So just to give a brief intro, can you tell us a little bit about yourselves and about your company, Moonlight Productions, for those who are wondering?
Okay. My name is Christine Zara. The name of our company is Moonlight Productions. I'm the co-owner and co-founder of the company. I am the program director, the artistic director, a teaching artist, a director, and a vocalist. So,
woman of many talents. Thank you for joining us on Women's History Month.
My name is Victoria Venezia, also co-owner, co-founder, producer. My roles: teaching artist, actor, writer, director. I handle legal, accounting, technological, things of that nature. So
everything.
Kind of we just do it.
Talents wrapped up into
Thank you guys.
one person. That's amazing. That's awesome. So Moonlight Productions, can you tell us a little bit about how you guys got started and how the company was formed?
Okay, I'm going to let my partner woo you with our inspirational self-affirmation story. So
yes.
Take it away.
Love it.
So Christine and I met, a lot of people think it was a couple decades ago, but we only met about 5 years ago. And instantly we knew we shared a similar passion for the arts, and not only the arts, but moving people, affecting people, changing lives with the arts. So we met working as teaching artists for another company. Christine was also the program director. And we were having a day where things were kind of, a little down. We were a little frustrated. Christine was—
You can be honest.
Christine was crying. Christine was crying in a diner. And something just, struck me. And I was like, take out this piece of paper. I wrote a contract that said, on this day, I vow to you that within a year, you and I will own our own theater company, and we will, manifest it into reality, and it will be better than either one of us could have imagined. As she's sobbing in her diner napkin, the X made her
She
sign.
didn't tell me though. She was just writing something, and I was sobbing.
Yeah. So
And
made her sign, and
she said, "No." She said, "I'm going to ask you to do something right now, but you have to promise me you're just going to do it." And of course, I was like, "What is it?" Because she's very, very spiritual, and it's a contract. So she read the contract to me, and then said, "Just sign it. You have to sign it." And I was like, "Whatever, fine." And I signed it.
Yeah. So it was on November 7th of 2016, and we had a year. And we did it in 9 months.
Yeah.
And we did our first performance in June of 17. We became officially a corporation in August of 17. And then we just
the rest
kept
is
going.
History.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we met working at another company, we had this parallel past that, I went back to college late in life. I was in and out of college from when I was a teenager up until I started having children when I was only 24 years old. So I would go in and out. One child would go, I only have two, but one would go to school, I'd go back to college. When, I had my son, my daughter was first, the next one would go to school, kindergarten, I went back. When I finally went back solid, I was 32. So Victoria had graduated, and she's a little bit younger than me, a few years prior. And while I was doing a performance, it was a student-run performance, but it was a full production with with my peers that were amazing, and mentorship that was phenomenal at the College of Staten Island. Someone had mentioned another production that was done, but no one ever said who did it. And we would talk about this show, and I never thought to ask who the person was, because they had graduated and they were gone. And while we were working at this other company and we were talking one day, she wound up being the director and the producer of that piece. And we had both done these women empowerment pieces that were, it was
Yeah.
like passion and purpose was one of our most driving forces, which is the tag of Moonlight Productions, where passion meets purpose. And I had done Macanal, which was a play set in the 1920s about a woman who actually murdered her husband, but she was put on death row. And it was a story about being oppressed and being in a situation where she went to like all lengths to get, you know, to seek freedom from her life. She picked the wrong choice, however. But I mean, that was a driving force there, really about domestic violence and a lot of those things that I was passionate about. And then Victoria, her show was?
So I did a 14-woman production of the Vagina Monologues for the V-Day College campaign.
I did that too. Oh, that's so I did the Vagina Monologues.
We gotta talk about it. So yeah, so instead of doing like, you know, just a couple women, we, you know, built a whole set. We kind of threaded through music and different kind of ways to enhance it and make it more impactful. We did an after party and a fundraiser, and we raised, I think we raised almost $15,000 for Safe Horizon at the time. So that,
I'm so proud of that. Every time I hear it.
Yeah, every time I talk about it.
Horizon is a wonderful organization. That was what I feel like I met my soul sisters here. That's exactly right too.
I'm so excited to talk to you.
So we find this out,
and we're like, oh, we did that stuff.
And then the roles that we played at the college, they were very similar. We were that girl, like at the time. People, you know, people wanted to work with us. We both had a lot of the same desires and the same drive. And we were like, well, we were like meant to be together. So working through the company and like, you know, the other company and seeing like what we had to bring to the table and what we were when we were together working, because we started working together like constantly.
Yeah.
It was a no-brainer, actually. It was kind of like I had wanted to start a company and had tried to look into it years prior. The technical aspects, the legal aspects, a lot that goes into it. And I was working with 3 of my peers that were much younger than me, and they were wonderful, but that wasn't their thing either. You know, one was a sound and a lighting designer, manages a theater. Another one was an aspiring actress and a director. Another one was a musician and into sounds and the technological, but that other part of it just fell through. And Victoria had started her own thing also, and that didn't go. It took off.
Yeah, I had done some shows after college, and the thought was to start a company, but at that time my heart was really in pursuing acting as a career and not really having to run or manage a company. So we did 3 productions in that little time space, but it just wasn't the time. And now I know why.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm just going to put myself out there because it is what it is. I was like anti-partner. I was totally anti-partner. I had a bad taste left in my mouth from different experiences in my life. And I was like, there's no way I'm sharing this. I'm at this age in my life, and I've been involved in the performing arts since I'm like, not to be like silly, but I was 2 years old the first time I stepped on a stage. I had been bred into this entire world, from dance into vocalist into musical theater, and and then it played a role throughout my whole life. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to share like all these years of experience and put what I love in the hands of anyone else, because no one could do it like I can do it. And then throughout this whole process, she was like, look, she said, I promise you that you'll be okay, that we'll be okay together. And my mother, if you're out there, Linda,
Hey, Linda.
my mother said,
Linda.
Hi, Linda. Hi, Mom.
Linda is very much to herself. She's a lone guy. You know, she does her own thing.
Lone wolf.
And she said, you need this girl and you should go with this. You need her in your life. Like you, and I was like, Ma, like, who are you? Really? You know, she was always like, take care of yourself, worry about yourself, don't trust anyone. And all of a sudden she was saying, trust this. And it was the best choice. It was the best choice
Mistake you could have made.
It was the best choice that I've ever made. And I think for both of us, we've grown so much just working with each other, because we both have our own way and our own quirks and things that we do, maybe better than each other, but it just interconnects perfect. And look, I'm not putting it out there like our life is peaches and cream, because it's not. Like sometimes we're like, however, for most of it, when we're working, this is how I know, and I'm sure you can agree, I know that this is something that was meant to be, because no matter what's happening, the minute that we are in the presence of anyone that we're working with, or anyone that's having a problem, or anyone that we know is struggling or doubting themselves, or is looking for or needs some kind of boost, anything and everything her and I have ever bickered about is gone in a second. It's like instant, together, we got you. Like it's like we don't exist sometimes. It may sound strange, but we get lost in our work and the people that we work with, which, sometimes people say to us, you really need to get a hold on that. You can't be, you need better time management skills. But if we're working with someone and there's a breakthrough happening, no matter who they are, what age, we don't want to let go, because, the moment's coming and it's happening and you're like, oh, the class was supposed to be over 20 minutes ago. Yeah. They're having a moment, So we definitely are dedicated, and we become one person. It's so strange, but we do.
Yeah, it's great. And I feel like I still feel like I definitely constantly still learn from you. There's definitely,
because I'm old.
No,
that's why.
No, there's definitely, it's a kind of like a yin and yang, and like
I was thinking yin and yang. Yep.
Yeah, there's like certain things that like, I know I will never be able to do the same way, but what I can learn from Christine and how she can lead and guide, it's helped me not only professionally but personally. So
you develop your own way too,
Yeah, so I think it's cool that we constantly are still learning separately and together and from each other and through all the work that we do. So that's kind of fun.
I mean, we also have a very different history, although it was parallel and similar. Victoria's strengths come in writing and producing and acting and being out there. And she's the one that went off Broadway and put shows up. I was in community theater before I went back to college. I was in community theater for almost 8 years, producing and directing and doing choreography. But I guess because it was community theater and I loved what I did and my kids were small, I didn't look at it as like that it was going to be a part of my entire existence. I just knew I loved what I do, and I was raising a family, and I just did it. Later on in life, those two things, like working with the community and Victoria being off Broadway, we cover all the bases. Yeah. And, we also are learning. Don't get me wrong, we have tons of learning, and when we tell you who we're involved with and what we're doing, it's like we're always learning. But we both experienced two different styles of the arts, which is nice. So I lean and go more toward her judgment and her guidance. If we're doing something in a theater, I'll plug the Little Victory Theater, Alberta Thompson. Great place, a little tiny theater in Staten Island. And, it's very nice to have that guidance. And I trust you. I totally do. And she gives me way too much credit sometimes. Same. But yeah, so we trust each other. And it's a nice little combo.
Yeah.
That's so great.
It sounds like it. We're just sitting here with giant smiles on our face. We're loving the love fest now. It's great that you made a complete 180 at least, and you were able to kind of open up your heart to having a partner, because it seems to be that you guys have a perfect balance. So it's great. You guys are doing amazing things in the community at large. So just to explain a little bit further to those who are watching, you offer classes and opportunities for children and young adults, or do you?
Our age range is from 4 years old to the oldest participant we've ever worked with was 100. Yeah, 100. Yeah.
Oh my.
We sang a happy birthday with our group for a 100th
Yeah, we had a
birthday
100th
celebration.
birthday, and somebody in, I think, one of
Yeah, and then
Erica's
we had-
classes was in their hundreds.
Yeah, we had another one that was 101.
Yeah,
101. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Oh my God.
I guess before you start talking about like everyone that we've been worked with, one of the things that helped us develop the company and grow so rapidly is because we realized that the core of everything that we do is about the human spirit, the human growth, the journey. You know, it's not really about the final product. Yes, we're a theater company. Yes, we're a production company. We put up shows, you know, hopefully sooner than later, because it's been like, it feels like forever. But our heart is with people and teaching. And, you know, even when you're doing a show, if I'm directing, you're still teaching. And when you're working with actors, you're still working with them, their life, their experience, their growth, you know, what they're experimenting with in their own craft, you know. So, you know, the core of everything we do is in the person. So we realize that no matter what we teach, whether it be writing or theater or improv, and no matter who we're working with, and Victoria will tell you like all of the people that we're working with, the core of it is all the same. So we started to see that the success and the progress, no matter who it was, whether it was a 5-year-old or whether it was a 95-year-old, it was all the same. And we were like, wait, this is cool. You know, you don't realize how, you know, how we're all just people, you know, age is a number. And the beauty of the arts and theater especially is it's a timeless and ageless craft. You can, the oldest actor I think right now is 102. 102 is actively working.
Imagine acting.
I don't have his name off the top of my head. My daughter actually told me about him like 2 weeks ago. So
Yeah.
you know, if you could pull off a 50-year-old and you're 85, you're all good.
Wow.
Yeah, the time it's timeless. The craft is timeless, and you're forever and ever and ever learning. There's never a final, no like certificate at the end that's like you completed it. It's like
Right. Yeah, you're done. No, it's not.
you learn and grow forever, for days and days and days. So that is what, and there's other reasons why we were catapulted into some of these different places, which we'll, you know, explain later, but I'll let Victoria go over the people that we are involved with.
Yeah, please.
Like Christine said, we work ages 4 to 104, and if you're older than that, bring it on. Our classes are first off, we offer customized classes. So we have classes that aren't even on our site that we can create a class suited just for the individual or their group of friends or a family. But our classes can really cater to anyone at any level. So whether it's a skills class like creative writing, or a class where you're learning improvisation, or a class where you're building a show, nobody will feel left behind. I think that's the most important thing, because we do offer classes to a huge range of individuals. So we really pride ourselves on making sure that not a single person gets lost in that process.
I'm so excited while you're saying this. I'm sorry. I'm trying to contain myself.
Yeah.
I just have to spit this out real quick. So
Are you going to talk about Jean?
no. Don't forget what you're saying. I just have to implement this.
Make a mental note.
That's where we're at. So we are both, I'll give background history quick, bully victims growing up. Totally different kinds of bullying too.
Yeah.
Severe, both. 2 different experiences. It's part of why and how we conduct everything we do. If you remember being a kid, and I'll just use this as an example, and there is that bully that the teacher always misses.
Yeah.
We don't miss them ever. And the beauty of what we do is, and we realize that bullying goes on and on and on and on for days. It goes all the way to the senior centers. It's there. It's never ending.
It does.
The beauty of being so aware, we're hyper aware because of where we came from, is not only do we target it instantly. It's like we see it, know it, recognize, I can feel it. The energy comes right off. It's like, no, not going to happen. However, we care for our bullies, which is something else that I think we've learned as we've grown older. You know, I'm sure if you would have talked to us 15 years ago, we would have had a different opinion. However, now, after doing this for so long, we are mindful of our bullies. You know, why they're doing it, what's going on, what their experiences are. There's always a reason, there's something. So we're hyper aware of all the places that we work at. And because of our history being bullied, it does make that, well, in addition to what you were saying, it makes every class that we've taught, most people say, I felt so comfortable. I felt so safe here. You made us feel very, very, you know, just very comfortable just being myself. And, you know, we encourage a lot of like trust building exercises and conversation. So the vulnerability is not so intense and people are willing to divulge and speak and you know, their life, their background. So I just had to say that because whenever I hear it, I'm like, we really are those people. And there aren't, from what I've seen, a lot of teachers, they don't have time too. Like they're so busy and you don't have eyes behind your head. We have this luxury. One, when you're on virtual, you can see everyone, which is great.
Oh yeah.
Like we're on the bully virtual. Okay. In the classroom, we work always from two different ends of the room. We're never in the front together, ever. There's always one leading and one paying attention. Always like paying attention to the person that maybe is more quiet or shy that needs that push. Same thing in the senior community, through and through. But back to what you're saying.
Yeah, so I think like definitely in the classroom, the goal was to know each and every individual so well that that person would feel like that class was for them, even in a group, to make everybody feel like an individual in a group setting. So prior to COVID, we were working with several hundred senior citizens in 5 different locations and, you know, trying to get to know every single individual.
We did.
Who they are, everything we know.
No.
And then
every single person that we
in
work
person,
with.
yeah. And then also before COVID, we were also working in Lifestyles for the Disabled, where we were working with over 50 participants and knowing each one of them individually, finding their strengths, highlighting their strengths, kind of maneuvering everything to make every person feel like they have their moment. Virtually, how we're translating that is that anybody who's interested in any class we offer, we want to speak to them before. We want to get to know them before, know them in depth, know what they want, what they're looking for, who they are.
Yes,
so we can, in conjunction, help them find the best fit for them.
Yeah, we write and we write this when you go on our website and check it out. Like one of our like way we have the most pride in this is we personalize every class. So for example, if you're taking our Journey into Theater class, which is an intro to theater, it's basically get a taste of everything in like 6 weeks. However, the first thing we do in every single class that we teach, no matter what, we ask about each person individually. Our class sizes are small. They're never, for the most part, unless it's a production or a class that's gearing up toward a show, there's never more than 10 to 12 ever. Like, and that's big. That would be considered huge. Yeah. We try to keep it between 6 and 10 because, you know, you want that where you can get to know each person. Well, we want to know each person. However, after that first class, we are able to customize that class to suit whatever was said in the first class. So let's say one participant says, I'll just use video games as the first thing that pops into my mind, video games. And then another participant is very intrigued by art or music, or I'll even say carpentry. I mean, down to anything. We figure out a way to implement not only what we're teaching, but we use what they're familiar with within our work. Because there's an instant connection. Yeah. And the truth of the matter is, people know when you care about them. They know. They know when you remember their name. They know when you remember a story they told, or, you know, a quirk that they had, or something funny that happened in their life. And that is what makes us personally, I could say we both feel, it makes us stand out from many other places that maybe don't have the luxury or don't choose to, you know, make their classes so small. We do for that purpose. So every class is different. No matter what, you could take the same class 5 times, and 5 times it will be a different class because it's different people.
Right.
It definitely sounds like your classes are very unconventional. So it's not like your typical theater group. It's
You're not getting it. Still.
Oh, there it is.
What do you say?
Do it again.
That's amazing. That's really awesome.
It feels like you guys are very person-centered, which is very big, especially in the being in the disability community. So it seems to me you guys have shifted your focus, and now you guys are dabbling into becoming very integrated and getting your classes to be extremely accessible, especially being in such a virtual space. It's a lot easier to be accessible now. Can you tell us about your experience and how you are starting to get involved in the disability community?
So I'll try to keep it brief. During Hurricane Sandy, I had actually left right before Hurricane Sandy with my family. And while I was in Florida, my family kept saying, don't come home. So we were there for like, I don't know, almost 2 weeks. And I had a friend that was in Staten Island, and we had rented a car and grabbed a trailer and drove home and gathered as many supplies as we could on our way home to try to help whoever we could. And a friend of mine I had reached out to, I was like, if anyone knows anything that I could do to service the community, please let me know. So a girl reached out to me, and she said she was doing volunteer work with a group called Camp TLC, which originally was a camp. It's called Camp TLC, Together Living Challenges. Living Challenges. Caroline, if I said it wrong, I'm sorry. Caroline Balmas is the director. However, originally it was a camp for children with AIDS. And she had taken over the company, and, thank God, the AIDS epidemic has changed over time, and they've gotten more equipped to take care of people that have contracted the disease. And she decided to expand the company. She started doing her camp at Mount Manresa. And a friend of mine was like, hey, this camp is at Mount Manresa, taking care of the community and people and families that have been misplaced. So if you want to come and meet her, come and meet her. So I came to meet her, and I pretty much said, like, I'm an artist. I've been in the performing arts my whole life. I would love to help. What can I do? And she was like, really? I said, I was in community theater. I could do this, this, and this. And she was like, go ahead. It's all yours. So she was taking care of a ton of other stuff, organizing her programming. And I started to work with these families. Because her and I forged this wonderful relationship, she had done camps at Mount St. Mary in Queens, the hospital in Queens. And that hospital is for people that are developmentally and physically disabled. And there's also camps for any children that are living with disabilities that she would sponsor, and they would come there for the week. So she invited me in, and I taught a music class where they did like a little performance. So for the week, I had a few different classes. I was working with all different people that were living with disabilities, and then we would do a performance at the end. That grew into her inviting me to work in Lake George. And this is where everything kind of just came together for me. I was invited to go teach a music class at this huge campground and stay there for the week with the Upstate Autism Alliance, Kids Need More, Camp for Children with Cancer, and Camp TLC. They had this brilliant idea to put these three camps together and see how they work together up in Lake George. And it was the most amazing experience I've ever had. I had never worked with children with autism. I was terrified. And it was probably the most moving experience of my life. It made me realize, like, literally, like, it was something that whatever I can do with anyone. And it was like, oh, like, I could do this. So in a family at the end, they had come up to me at the end and said, thank you so much. You don't know this about my sons. They were twin boys, but I could cry. Okay. No crying. So we
You can cry.
You can cry if you want.
no, crying ugly face. So at the end, one of the boys came over, and he just kind of like pushed his whole body against the side of me. And the mother and father came to me later, and they were like, you don't understand, like, that what a huge thing that was for him. He doesn't do that with anyone. And when we met you introduced yourself a certain way, and we usually gave a set of rules to work with our boys. and we didn't give them to you because there was something about the way you spoke. We wanted to see how you managed. So I was like, oh, thank God I did a good job. But I still have a relationship with that family. I don't see them because they're in Lake George, but I will see them again because we will work with them eventually. But that was the beginning to realizing that I had a place there. And then to watch children with a terrible illness like cancer and all these, and watch them totally forget that they had an illness while they were helping other children. It was a brilliant combo. And the children that were disabled, it was like no one had anything going on. We were just people learning, having a good time, growing. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Camp TLC, they're now out west and they're in California and they're amazing. But that was where like I realized that this was going to be a part of my life. I just didn't know how much it was going to play a role in my life. And then when I worked with the company prior to opening our own, I noticed that there were classes that had some students that were living with disabilities. And that was what I gravitated to. And we really weren't equipped for a lot of that kind of work. But I had already experienced them. So I embraced it. I started to do my research. I started to read more, learn more. And then working with seniors that I had been working with since I was a child. I mean, the both of us grew up with World War II and Korean War veterans. Her dad is a vet from the Korean War. And Alzheimer's was thrown into it. And my grandmother had passed away from Alzheimer's. And that was another thing I was terrified of. And we both had this wonderful experience with this company where we learned how to work with people that had early onset dementia and Alzheimer's. So all of a sudden, like we had this pot of everything. And we talked, like I called it like Moonlight Productions is like the, the chicken pot pie of the creative arts, because we literally managed to tap on every single community, every single age group, but all with the common, like the core.
Yeah.
And grow to experience like all of these things in such a it's just been like a beautiful experience. COVID, I'm gonna give it back to you. Sorry, I'm gonna give it back to you on COVID.
Okay.
All right. So, right before COVID, everything that we worked for in 2019, we worked our butt off in 2019. Can I get like financially personal?
We lost everything.
So for 2019, we put every single cent of every single thing we did and made into our company. We did not take a cent because we knew that we had to do this. We lived off whatever we had left. And we just stayed positive. And then COVID happened and we lost everything. So right before we lost everything, I'll let you take over. But that's how we got involved with the community of people living with disabilities.
Yeah.
I just want to say really quick that I just love that entire story so much. There are so many like things to take out of it that I thought were just so wonderful. I love that I feel like when you work with people with disabilities on a one-to-one kind of scale, you have those moments where something changed or something clicks. And it's just, that's what makes it, you know what I'm saying? That's what makes it really like so real. I also love that you had said that you felt like you had found something, or you had gotten into the community, because I feel like when we talk about disabilities, we always talk about people with disabilities coming into an able-bodied society, when in reality also it goes like both ways, you know what I mean?
No, I got in their world and
exactly.
And it was a blessing. It really was. It really truly was. And right before I move on let you move on, the same thing happened with the people living with early onset dementia. We were doing a program somewhere, and we were having trouble getting people. It was in the company prior, and there was this group that sat at a table of seniors, and we didn't know like exactly what what was going on, what kind of group they were. But I was like, what's going on over there? And we went over to the girl and we were like, who are these people? And she was like, well, these are, a lot of our seniors that are living with early onset dementia. Some of them have Alzheimer's. And I was like, how do you feel like joining our group for like an hour a week? Because we were there like a few times a week. And she was like, yeah. I was like, it'll be light and easy. And I went and I spoke to my boss at the time, and I was like, how do you feel about this? And I was like, I'd like to invite all of these people, and just to get us moving and get people comfortable with us, and to grow the group that we were working on. And the director there, who was wonderful, she was like, I'm okay with it. And so we once a week we would do this 1 hour of music, and the things that we've learned about Alzheimer's. And I wish I would have known this before my grandmother had passed, because I didn't know much and I was terrified of it. Music is the last thing that goes when someone is suffering with Alzheimer's. Like, they can know nothing, no one, and the minute like music comes on, you access a part of their life.
Wow.
And I can't get into the medicals because I'm a drama teacher. Come on. but if you look at it and research it, and I have read about it, it is one of the things that resonates with them. And I think it's the same for other people that are living with disabilities that are maybe nonverbal. It's another thing that the music world, it gives you that opening to slide into anyone's life, no matter what. If they can't see, or they can't hear, or they can't speak, or they're immobile, no matter what, you can get there through that. And that was what gave us the opportunity to work with these people that were dealing with early onset dementia. And we had met someone from another company that invited us to go do a class where they taught us, we put like all this equipment simulation on what it feels like to have Alzheimer's. It's like, I wish I knew and had that opportunity while my grandmother had it.
Right.
Because I would have understood so much better. What was the name of the?
Right at Home.
Yeah, Right at Home
They provide care for people who are for the families of people who are living with Alzheimer's dementia, like home health and home health aid and things like that.
So for anyone listening,
Right at Home,
plug in Right at Home, because they're amazing. They'll work with your family. They'll, and it's scary. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing to have to endure. So they take care of everything, and we had that luxury of learning that too. So that's it's just been a great opportunity, and we got to go into people's worlds and lives that we never would have known if we didn't. So yeah.
And I think that the thing that solidified us working with individual with disabilities and wanting to work more with inclusive classes was we met a human being who is a wonderful human being named Dan Ryan. And him just knowing a basic information about our histories, he saw something and believed in us enough to set up a meeting with Scott Salinardi from Lifestyles for the Disabled, who unfortunately passed back last year.
Come on.
And I know, it's getting emotional. But he, on trust and just knowing us and who we are as people, said to Scott, you got to meet these girls. So we did a pilot program there where it was about 7 weeks. And when I mean 7 weeks, I mean like 7 hours, like an hour a week. We had 2 classes,
we had 26
to 30
adults living with disabilities, and a multitude of disabilities too. Like, they weren't, all one type of disability.
In that 6-7 hours, we got to know each one of those humans individually, where we put on a show, Lifestyles Got Talent, where each and every single one of them showcased exactly what their passion was. We had a woman reading poetry. We had people embodying wrestlers, coming down the aisle, their own choreography, singing, dancing, acting, comedy. And that, I think, for me personally, and for Christine too, that kind of solidified us saying, yeah, we want to be with these individuals. So that program went really well. And then after the summer, Scott had brought us back to teach 5 classes. So we were working with over 50.
From 26 to 56 of them.
And, we
the
were
awesomest participants ever.
We were starting to build and create their performance with everything they love. But unfortunately, that all halted in March because of COVID. And it's indefinite if we're ever going to be able to be back with them in that capacity.
Yeah, there was a large hit to their funding, and they weren't able to have us back. But that, quite frankly, we lost like quite a few of our students.
Yeah,
and we probably could have never put that production up to what it was.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
For that, I think that kind of was like the final, like, okay, we need to, expand more into this community. And also before COVID, we were working in 6 different senior centers, and all of those centers were working towards putting up final performances, original performances. Some of them had done performances prior: West Brighton seniors, Mount Loretto seniors, Toad Hill, Aracar, Cassidy Coles.
Their performances are like an hour to an hour and a half long too. They're awesome performances.
We had the West Brighton seniors doing Cell Block Tango from Chicago. It was the sassiest,
and the show was about
amazing female activism.
It was awesome.
Empowerment. So yeah, it's we work with all of these different communities and people, and to translate all of this virtually was the most horrifying thing, because we're like, how are we going to do this virtually?
The intimacy. We were so
terrified
afraid
it would be lost.
And we're both very animated. I don't know if you can tell.
Hey, I feel you.
We're animated and quite dramatic and quirky and corny. And we're always like doing something kind of silly at some point or other. So to lose that one-on-one, and especially in the in the school for the disabled, a lot of the things we did with them were so like hands-on. We were like, how does this work? How does this work like this? And
but I think
it did. It worked.
We taught our first virtual class back in, what was it? Maybe November? With
October,
the
November.
CSI Options program. It's a great program, 55 and over, $100. You can take as many classes as you want.
Plug in them too. Plug in you too. CSI Options program.
So we're teaching a class for them, and we had this group of 6 wonderful, young, sassy seniors who in 6 weeks we felt like we knew them for years and created a performance with them virtually.
We kind of took advantage of them though. This is the truth. They know it already. So mind you, March to October, we weren't working.
Yeah.
We went from working every single day, doing 5-6 different shows at one time, teaching all these different people, to nothing. So here we are with these 6 wonderful people. Excuse me.
And an intro to theater
and
class, a little basic class.
Yeah, it was supposed to be intro to theater, and they showed like they were ambitious, and we were like, so like in like one class, her and I were like, they could do this, and they could do this, and they could do this, and they could do this, and
in 6 classes they had a 40 minute full production with costumes and props virtually.
32 pages.
So
we were like, whoa.
I think what that did for us was that showed us, okay, virtual is not the same, but we can make it the best possible experience we can for these people. So that is when we said we need to launch our own virtual classes while we wait and hope that the places that we worked with in the past before COVID were able to translate their work virtually or things open up. So I think that was kind of the stepping stone, saying, all right, we can offer these classes. We can be confident that we'll still be able to give an experience that, we feel proud of and worth it,
comfortable with.
Like we don't want to not be able to give.
Yeah, we're like all about the 150%. And it was actually kind of a curse for a while, because for me especially, because if I couldn't guarantee, I would pull back. And I would say, we can't do it. I can't do it. If I can't, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And we pushed off our younger artists. Because I kept saying, once we go into children and teenagers and young adults, they're going to come on full force, and we won't have time. And I want to touch, before we're wrapping up, I want to touch on the other part of our Bold program, because they're so dear to my heart, and they mean a lot to me, to both of us. But that whole virtual launch was like, this is the time, like we need to launch to the younger community, where artists, they deserve to have the opportunity too. We were so engulfed in what we were doing prior to COVID. We figured, we'll launch it like in a year or so. And we launched classes for everyone during COVID. So that's how that came to light. And it was a plan, because I worked for 8 years with children in the community from 5 years old to 17. And Victoria had done original plays and wrote scripts and music and did musicals with kids too. So we had the past, but we were focused on, like, I have like a deep passion for people that are living with substance abuse disorders, and and people, for both of us, people that are living with any kind of mental illness disorders. And it was really the heart of what we knew, who we wanted to touch on. And brief, like, I grew up in a situation where I had a family member that was battling alcoholism, and then it moved, it was throughout my life that I watched this pattern, and I had such an, I don't know, I was just gravitated to it. The recovery process, and how, as family members, we would be codependent, and someone was going through either addiction or alcoholism, and we would stand on our head and not, would give and give and give and give until finally someone said enough is enough. But then once the person went into recovery, the truth of the matter is sometimes you're so exhausted, people would just let go. And I was young and I didn't get it. I was like, if we can do this while it's happening, why are we not completely engulfed in the recovery process? And now as an adult, I understand, it wears you down, you're tired, you start to, you have to take care of yourself. But anyway, I watched this process. I lost a family member. Luckily, he was sober, but he was my uncle, and he was like a brother to me. He wasn't that much older than me. And I had, someone very dear to my life that suffered with bipolar disorder and had bouts with addiction. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to let this go. Like, so throughout that process of recovery, I learned a lot about addiction and recovery and what went into it and what a person had to go through while they were in recovery. And then I looked at the community, and I was like, there's really not a lot of programming, if any, for people that are actively in recovery. It's really about, and I mean in the arts, like, it's really about drug prevention, but who's working with the people in recovery? And there are some, don't get me wrong, but it's not really what you hear a lot about. And considering that we're in the middle of this opioid nightmare, and we have our young adults that are sometimes 11, 12 years old, 13 years old, they've already went through addiction and are in recovery, and they're only 14. My heart was wrapped around their recovery, and we created a program that was geared to recover time. We called it Recovering Time. No, you can never get back the time that's passed. However, children especially, when they lose that time in their life, and they're trying to rebuild, there's really nowhere for them to go backwards to experience the school play or learning about, playing sports, maybe, we all, in the community, after they hit a certain age in sports, it's ruthless. Like, if you're not that good, quote unquote, you cut, and, kids fall off by the time they're 14. So now you have all these kids, they're trying to go through recovery, but they don't have anything to boost them up, to help them grow, to help them rebuild. And I was like, we're going to be that place that a kid can go through recovery and experience those things, and experience them not alone, experience them with other kids their age. The reality too is people ostracize people when they've been through addiction or, have suffered from substance abuse disorders. So, I can understand that as a parent being fearful, I don't want my child to be with this kid. But it's like anything else that you're battling, whether it's, people don't realize addiction is addiction. If you eat a lot, or if you, whatever the different things are, there's all different forms of it. It's not just substance abuse. But these kids don't have a place to go. So we wanted to be the place. And we teamed up with Pastor Joe from Celebrate Hope. And we, presented everything to him. He loved the idea. He worked with adults that were in recovery. And we had went to Councilman Borelli and gave a proposal for the programming, and he was so excited, his associate. And they were like, no one else is doing this. This is great. We'll totally support it. And then when they realized that we were a corporation and we weren't a nonprofit, I was like, ugh, you have to become a nonprofit to get this kind of funding. So that's actually how our nonprofit was launched, to get that kind of funding. So that our nonprofit was launched in January, but it never came to fruition because COVID, and we were doing all the paperwork and planning for the proposals. It never happened.
Yeah. However, the one thing that did happen was we attended the not-for-profit conference in January, which is how we met Johanna Laporta and how we became connected with you guys. And we met another wonderful human, Christian Penn, who runs Projectivity Lab, who we're collaborating with on an amazing project. So even though we never really got to launch the second company, the nonprofit, in that little small window, the people that we've met, it was worth all the,
all the heartaike. Yeah, it's coming. It's still there. I mean, we opened the company. It's not like it didn't open. It did.
Like
we just didn't, we're slowly
Yeah.
emerging and going in. And now, in addition to, we've just taken on the whole rest of the world. It's fun.
Honestly, you guys are taking the world by storm in every way possible.
Well, we just love people, and we want people to understand that when they hear the word theater, I like to use the word creative arts because I feel like theater scares people. There's so many other parts of theater. It's not like everyone's an actor. And you know what? If you don't try the different aspects of theater, you don't know if you are one. But there's so many different aspects of it. The growth process alone. We tell everyone we work with, you'll never be made to do anything you don't want to do here. If you're a part of the process, then you get writer, the authorship. If you're a part of the music, then there's all different parts of creating a piece. So the experience is, for some people, it's just a cathartic experience where they have healing that happened through a conversation builder or an arts exercise that tapped in on something that happened when they were younger that they finally got to talk about, or or write it into script form, and that's a way to heal for them. So it's a mix of everything. I mean,
and I think too the underlying thing that's happened the entire time is the working on the individual's confidence and self-esteem and giving them life skills and being able to speak and express themselves. So all of this stuff is kind of happening underneath that we're kind of puppeting. And then you have this creative aspect where you're having fun and you're being free and you're learning new skills, but you're simultaneously doing two things. So I feel like that's where we try to target our work, is to focus on the self-esteem and the confidence and building the human being while they're learning skills and having fun and creating shows and finding their talents. So that's kind of,
and we also, we implemented, I mean, it sounds funny because it's oh, you're doing all these things. Oh yeah. And we implemented another section of the company doing it. So, during this whole entire disaster last year, come July, we were in a rut. I mean, we hadn't left the four walls of my yard, and, we live in the same house. She lives on one side of the house, I live on the other. So we finally decided we needed to get out of here, and we just needed serenity and to just look at something different. And we started to go out into nature and just, talk and try to rebuild. And we knew we couldn't do it here. It was just stagnant here. Motivation, it was lacking. Everything was just, we were depressed. There's really nothing more to say. We lost a lot of people. It was heartbreaking. We were scared. We knew a lot of people we worked with were terrified. And, getting them to come out and, that was horrifying. So we left and we went on this journey into nature, and we created what's called a Moonlight Minute, which is a minute that we showcase an undisclosed location. And we decided to give the audience on Facebook Live at the time an artistic exercise to do. So again, we were well, we're not working, but we can get people to do things so we feel like we're working, and we're helping them. So we encourage people to do the artistic exercise. And then we decided on Wednesday nights, we would do a small talk segment on Facebook Live, and then disclose the location and showcase people's work from whatever they sent in from the artistic exercise. So it's cool. That immediately turns into an hour show. It's now called Moonlight Live. It's a talk show for an hour. Last night, it's an hour and 15 minutes. We've had our most was 4 hours, and our least was 40, was an hour. Yeah. So, but we do that every Wednesday night, and now it's become a staple in the company. And people have written into us and said, "I look forward to this every week. Thank you so much." Thursdays after the talk show on Wednesday nights, we post. Victoria creates these beautiful montages. They're like video, like small little movies where we were, so you can see the whole location in detail. And inspires people to get out to nature where it's free. Am I missing anything? It's a free place to go.
Yeah.
You're safe. The most important part was providing
COVID.
Providing a location that was safe for people to travel to with their family or alone, however they wanted to do it. That was safe.
Yep.
We've done 22 locations so far. I think eight or nine have been on Staten Island, Brooklyn, Queens, Long Island, New Jersey. Like we do some that are a little further away, but we try to do
Delaware.
Yeah, we try to do as many local as possible, so it's accessible to people in our community. But we want to branch out, so we're hopping state to state.
It wound up becoming a thing because virtually we'll go worldwide. Why not? And the plan was once we get back on our feet, because everything's virtual for us at the time, that we could travel and then set up appointments with different groups throughout the country to get to know them, introduce our work. It's very hard to explain what we do on an ad, which makes it very difficult. But that's why we'd rather talk to people. If you're listening and you want a class, well, we totally welcome phone calls. But that being said, that's our world right now.
Yeah, I will say I have tuned in onto your Facebook Lives and Instagram Lives, and you guys are just a lot of fun. So I do highly recommend if anyone is taking a look to please tune in on Wednesday nights, because I think that it's a nice space because it's very difficult to connect. That's kind of where we got started with our show, is we found that we were so big on that interpersonal connection in every way possible that we were like, okay, how do we do this in a space where we literally are in our pajamas, in our homes, kind of just like, all right, now what's
how do we
next?
reach the community?
Exactly. So
that's awesome.
Take a look.
Thank
you.
Very
cool. Thank you so much.
Of course. So just to kind of quick little wrap up, classes are open. Just to clarify for those who are, so anyone that is interested, we're open.
They're ongoing. They're constantly going. So if when you call, don't look for a date, because we're going to set it up to suit your life and your preference.
Great.
And we're rotating like 6 weeks, 16 weeks, depending on the program that you choose.
Perfect. Great. So, on the screen, for those who are watching, we have all the contact information, and it's featured in the comments below as well for you to take a look and reach out to Christine and Victoria. And these two women are fantastic. We have talked with them. We have met with them. They are just wonderful, wonderful people, and their story really can go on forever, and it's amazing, and it's just so fantastic.
It's quite a roller coaster. You guys almost had me crying on my show. I can't have that.
I can't have my makeup running. But we really appreciate you guys coming and joining us, and we're really excited to see your journey in the disability community as well, being that you guys are in the final process, in the final stages of accepting self-direction, and we're just really excited that our agency is going to partner up with you guys too.
Yeah, we're very grateful.
Yeah. Yes, we are too. So with that said, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for being our pioneers of Women's History Month.
It's so cool.
Melissa, you too. You're part of this.
Thank you.
No, you guys are incredible. Thank you for making us feel so welcome.
Yeah, and you're fun. You're very easy to
you guys
talk
are
to.
awesome. Yeah.
We don't feel good. It's sometimes you feel a little judgy, like you're like, oh, are they thinking we're weird? We are weird, but
we're super weird.
Good.
You're fine. But thank you again. And for those who are watching, please check out Moonlight Productions. Please tune into next week's episode of PCCS's EmPower Hour with the Staten Island Developmental Disabilities Council, talking about self-advocacy. And thank you again, Christine and Victoria, and we will talk to you soon.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Melissa. Thank you,